When you're dealing with kids that go through different phases of life, it's not just about football. As a coach, you're also human beings. So you take care of the human side as well, understanding that not every single player in the youth structure will be a professional player. So you need to give them tools for life. You need to help them with life skills, so it's not just about the football. So what we then do is we have a holistic approach in our development program to develop these kids on and off the field, to try and have a balance between football and academics. When they go through the different phases, adolescence and all that, we have the experience and the capacity to then guide, and we have very close relations with the parents, where our coaches communicate with the parents, we communicate with the schools as well to find out what is going on when they're not at the club. So when they are here, we know how to deal with them, because kids are not the same. So there's no blanket approach to how you treat each and every individual. So our approach is very holistic in trying to understand where do they come from, what is the family setup like, what are they like at school academically. When they give us their school report, you can then see and track, okay, this one is struggling, so maybe when you give instructions they don't comprehend too well because academically they're not strong. Some will be academically strong and then it also helps on the field. Some are not good academically but they're very brilliant on the field. So it's finding that balance. Our approach is firstly, it's a 5 to 10 year plan, where the first 5 years for us, we need to get talent in and around our 32-kilometer radius. That is where we scout. So we go to communities in and around Durban. The reason being for that is that the club does not have a clubhouse. So you can't go far and wide in terms of KZN, like Onongom and all these northern parts of KZN, because once you get a boy from there, where do we house them? And it's a development. So these guys need to go to school. They still need to be close to their parents, So our feeling is if they need to be closer to their parents, so there's a balance between school and football. We are not a club that is against the academic side of life. Recently, we've had good relationships with schools in and around Durban where they can house our boys, but also then the financial implications that come with that, because it's now school fees, boarding fees, uniforms and all that stuff. And we currently don't have that capacity to then spread our net far and wide. For those boys who are further out of KZN. But looking at the club's vision and long term is something that we'll definitely get to. The word development in its own explains itself. It's a process, all right? But also understanding in the process, you need to be able to develop a winning mentality. Because when you develop players, it's not just about the development phase of how they play and all that stuff. You need to develop players who know how to win, because when those players get to PSL or in the professional league is all about winning, because if you don't win, you get relegated. So we then now try find a balance for those late bloomers, because you have them in the system where you can see that, no, this kid will be exceptional in the next 4 to 5 years. So how we then work our system is that we have a half and half rule, where we'll have, for example, at an under 13 age group, we'll have 8 players who are turning 13 or 13 this year, and we'll have 8 players who are 11 and 12 years old. So that 11, 12-year-old band gives us time to then develop the late bloomers for the next age group, which will take us another year or two. Right, so that is how we are now trying to find a balance in having our late bloomers in the system so that they don't fall through the cracks, not taking away the fact that we are also under pressure to produce players of a certain caliber and standard. We also need to produce players that will add value once they get to our first team, in trying to help us get results. So the way we accommodate the late bloomers is always having a lower base in terms of the age cap in our various age groups. So they have that time to come out of their shells and to develop properly, but also not taking away the development of those that are ahead, and also not compromising the quality of play that we have in the system. So that is how we've now worked our system to also accommodate those late bloomers, because once they bloom, then they become very exceptional. For us, it's not a win at all cost mentality. For us, it's for them to understand our processes and how we play, our core fundamentals and how we want to play and how we structure our teams. So once we go through our fundamentals and our processes and how we train and how we prepare for games, then the results take care of itself. The biggest key or the biggest component that we push in our players, which we might call a pressure, is go into a game and give us your 100%. If you give us your 100%, the results will take care of itself. But we don't give them room to say, I went into the game and I played at 50% of my quality, value, or capacity. So that is how we then find a balance to say, guys, it's not a win at all costs, but understand you're representing a big brand. Understand that whenever you play, you need to be at your best, or you need to give us your best. And if your best does not get us the results, that is also still fine. But 90% of the time when our boys are playing at their best, then the results will take care of itself. So we have that balance where, guys, we've prepared well, this is what we need to do, these are our fundamentals, this is how we need to play, go out and perform at that level, and that is it. We have kids in the system that play for the junior national teams. They're on TV, they travel, they go overseas. We have young players playing in our reserve team, which is also broadcast on TV. And with social media now, then there's clips of them on TV. And for us as a youth structure, every year we have a camp. In that camp, we bring in various guest speakers, from mental health specialists to social media professionals. So we give them the pros and cons of social media. So how should they deal with being on TV, being in the limelight, receiving an exceeded amount of attention. So within the club setup, we work a lot. We work very closely with our media department to then upskill our guys to say, when this happens, this is how you react, this is how you treat yourself. You are now a brand apart from AMAZULU Football Club. So what you say and what you do will then have repercussions on you as a brand and as a footballer, because you are associated with AMAZULU Football Club. So we have those workshops within the club to try and help our players to stay level-headed, to keep their feet on the ground as they grow and become more and more relevant to people because of the status of them being on TV and representing the country at junior national team level. We might not be going far and wide for talent, but I think the club has done so well in terms of reaching out to those communities in the northern parts of KZN, southern parts of KZN, in terms of the CSI initiatives that the club has. You know, there's a lot of stuff that we get involved in terms of coaching clinics, in terms of back-to-school campaigns, you know. But I think a big pressure lies with the private institutions in terms of business, to then say, hey, we have an AMAZULU development structure in Durban, the only team in KZN with a professional development structure. How can they then also help the club financially and to help us be more sustainable as well? Because I think having a youth structure will then help solve so many social issues in and around KZN, but the club can't do it alone. I think private institutions, I think our local government as well needs to really have a look at the setup and see where they can also come to the party financially, because it really is strenuous financially. If you listen to our club president, clearly states Vision 2032, 90% of our first team players must be players from the youth structures, you know. So that is a big pressure on us in the youth structure to produce players of quality. And again, looking at how many players have been promoted, and some of them have already gotten minutes in the professional setup, I think we're on track to make that dream a reality for the club in the near future. We have Ubanda Tabete. Tabete is in the first team. We've promoted Tebogo Mashego, we've promoted Sipho Senkosi Ngubane. We have Usianda Hlangabeza, who's currently on loan now at Durban City. We have Olet Mzimela, who's come through the system. We have Uyanga Mjoli, who's currently on loan at Marumo Gallants. So we have a big pool of talent that has already broken through into the first team. We have Pepela Machola as well, who's also on loan. We have Umsindisi Ndlovu, who's currently in the first team. So we've had good successes from our youth structure of players in the first team. Looking at the structure as well as a whole, we have an abundance of talent of boys that will come through the system in the next year or two. So it's quite exciting to see the talent we have within the structure. And not to spoil the surprise, but I think have a look at next season. You'll see how many we have there.